Awesome. Thank you very much. So my name is Samuel Thuo. I'm an architect based in Nairobi, Kenya. I like to humbly call myself the Essence's architect, and that's what I'm going to be talking about. The presentation is already going, so it's divided into 4 parts. I'm going to talk about presence, absence, and the essence of our being, and we'll finish by talking about desensitizing ourselves. So this is absence. This is how most of us commute to work, in being overstimulated by sounds, by horns, and this is where we end up working in modern offices. Sleek, where we have focused on designing for efficiency, but forgotten to design for feeling. We've forgotten to design for flourishing. These spaces, they're designed for sight, but they forget to, they're not even designed with color, with warmth. And this is where most of our kids are left to grow up, where their senses are stimulated by pixels more than nature, and there is a sense of disembodiment, comparing that to those who are growing and they're exposed to trees. So one of my most absence experiences was when I came to the city and I woke up and it had rained. And I was like, I was not used to that, because in the village where I grew up, you will see the rain coming and you will prepare for that. And when it comes, you'll know that after the rains, we'll be out playing in the mud, getting to ground ourselves with nature, which is what I call presence, which is the sense of full sensory nourishment. And so to design for flourishing, we must design for all the senses. We must design for touch, because when you design for touch, we are not just touching the materials and feeling them. We are designing for connection. We are designing for memory. Touch is primal in us. In museums, they have those tags that please don't touch, because it's primal in us, it's inherent. And to design for flourishing, we must also design for light, not just light in the sense of informational, using light in that sense. Growing up in the village, we'll be woken up by light, which was not turned on by a switch. It was sun rays coming through the gaps in the walls. To design for flourishing, we must design for sound, not just sight. This is an ocean waves flowing away from a speedboat. It's by Anna Marinenko. And so when we design for sound, in the mainstream architecture, we're usually obsessed with getting rid of noises. We must design for sounds that heal, sounds that calm us. To design for flourishing and for presence, we must design for smell. This is an image of after rains. There's the smell of petrichor. It's a smell that calms us and heals us. It is a show that the rain has touched the earth and there's a sign of life. And so this is that part of my presentation where we talk about the essence of our being. That the essence of our being is not that just we are occupants of spaces, that we are sensory beings. At the core of us, they say beauty is in the eyes of the beholder. But I say that beauty is in the senses of the beholder. And so where can we learn from these aspects? We can learn from nature, because nature, I like to say, is the ultimate multisensory design that didn't have architects, that didn't have engineers. The way dappled light falls through trees, the winds, the breezes, we need to learn from nature. We need to learn from animals. We share 96% of our DNA with him. And whatever he enjoys, if we were to bring him in our built environment, he won't enjoy the environment. And yet, this is where we spend 90% of our time. We also need to learn from our ancestors. This is a Maasai Manyata house. The way it is designed with natural materials, we may not see windows from here, but there's a way light flows through the thatch. There's a way light flows into the space. And our ancestors knew how to design. We need to also learn from how chefs create cuisines, the way they cook, the way they incorporate sounds, the way they incorporate good smells, and how the food not just nourishes our bodies, but nourishes our brain, nourishes our senses. And that's why I like to talk about senses as a nourishing our senses. This is the last part where I'm going to talk about resensitizing our world. We must start by resensitizing our residential spaces. I like this image because being here, you're not just seeing the waterfall, you're also hearing the sounds. We must also resensitize our children, the environments they are growing in, the spaces that they're spending most of their time in, because those formative years, they are very important. And being in nature helps to not only grow their senses and grow their sensory muscles, but it's also good for their health. We must resensitize our senses. Resensitize our cities with textures, with smells, with sounds that heal us, that calm us, and not the overstimulation that we are used to. Finally, we must resensitize ourselves. This image shows us that we are part of nature. We are not separate from nature. And so we must go back to resensitize ourselves. And I'd like to finish by a small activity where I'm going to ask us to take a slow, deep breath in the environment that you're in, and close your eyes and ask yourselves, what is the smell of the space that you're in? How does that make you feel? What sounds, what noises can you hear? And how do they make you feel about your space? Are they the trademark of your space? Are there any taste sensations that your space gives you? How does the space make you feel? Because, as Peter Zumthor put it, presence is a gap in history when it is no longer past and it's not the future. It's just now. And for us to flourish, we must go back to designing for people to feel spaces. And that's why I'm part of this community, because I believe designing not just for form or function, but for feeling and for flourishing. What I like to call presence. In the slides, you may have seen how I try to edit presence to kind of include the sense bits so that we can design for presence and get out of absence. Thank you.
Thank you, Samuel.
You're welcome.
As a psychologist into mindfulness, I also really agree with presence. I think it's very therapeutic. Akontia has a question. Do you want to just unmute and have that discussion?
Yeah. So thank you very much for the presentation. Very interesting. And the reference you made to rain is actually something I can very much relate to. I come from an island in Greece. So when I came to the UK, one of the things that I noticed, and actually my friend who is from India has noticed the same thing, the smell of the rain in September time is not the same. So you don't get that connection to the environment, to that natural element. So I guess it's where my question is coming from. It feels like we have gone quite far from that direct connection. So how do you think we actually start to undo what we have done with our cities, what we have done with our environments at the moment? Because there's a lot of concrete here, there's a lot of brick, not enough green.
I think what I can say is just the way I finished the presentation, that we have to, first of all, resensitize ourselves. We have to reawaken our senses as individuals, because some of us have been brought into this environment since we were kids. And so we even don't know what is presence. I can talk about the rain, or you can talk about it because you've had that experience before. There's some people who have never had that experience before. So to beginning, we must resensitize and reawaken our own senses. Other than that, I'm a big fan of biophilic design, because I believe with biophilic design at its core it is multisensory. And so with biophilic design starting to come into our residential spaces, into our offices, and now taking that debate into biophilic urbanism, where we are incorporating those principles in designing our urban spaces, and even that being taken further to be incorporated in our policies. I think that's where we need to go, and to just undo the damage that has already been done.